Chapter 3. London. The journey to England was not easy for Gandhi. He found it difficult to speak in English, and he felt very nervous around the other people on the boat. Because of his promise not to have meat, for most of the journey he ate only the sweets and fruit that he had brought with him. When the boat arrived in England, Gandhi put on a white suit. But he found that no one else was dressed like him. Gandhi stayed at a hotel for his first few days in London. But an Indian friend of his family told him that he should find a room with an English family to learn about the way English people lived. Gandhi did what the friend suggested and found a room in a family house. But for his first few months in London, he was terribly homesick. He missed his own family, and he found everything in England very strange. And because he could not eat meat and could not find vegetarian food at first, he was often hungry too. Then, one day, Gandhi found a vegetarian restaurant in London. He went in and enjoyed his first good meal since arriving in England. While he was there, he bought a book about vegetarianism. After he had read the book, he decided vegetarianism was a very good way to live. So from this time on, he was no longer a vegetarian because of his promise to his mother. He was a vegetarian because he believed in vegetarianism. Gandhi began to enjoy London more, and for a while he decided to become an English gentleman. He bought expensive suits, hats and ties, and spent 10 minutes every morning combing his hair. He took lessons in dancing, French, and the violin, and he learnt to speak properly in English. But after about 3 months, Gandhi decided to live a simpler life. He could see that these lessons would not make him into an English gentleman. He began to understand that it was more important to be strong inside than to look and sound right, so he stopped the dancing, French, and violin lessons. Gandhi did well in his law studies, and while he was in London, he learnt a lot about other things too. When he was a second-year law student, he read the Bhagavad Gita, the most important book in Hinduism, for the first time. The Bhagavad Gita became very important for Gandhi for the rest of his life. He also read the Bible and books about Buddhism. He believed now that there was a God, but he was still trying to decide which religion he should follow. In his second year in England, Gandhi also travelled to Paris for the World Exhibition. The late 19th century was a time when European countries were very proud of the way they had changed and become modern. At the World Exhibition, the French showed many new buildings they had put up in Paris. One of these buildings was the Eiffel Tower, and Gandhi went up it 2 or 3 times. In the summer of 1890, Gandhi went to the International Vegetarian Congress in London, a big meeting for vegetarians, and he was then asked to join the executive committee of the London Vegetarian Society, LVS. Gandhi's work with British vegetarians introduced him to politics. He had to organise meetings, speak at them, and find people to give money to the LVS. He wrote 9 articles for the LVS's publication, The Vegetarian, between February and April 1891. And he also started a vegetarian club in London. He was still nervous when he had to speak in front of people, but he was learning things which would be very useful in his later life. Gandhi passed his law exams and was called to the bar, made a barrister, on the 10th of June 1891. 2 days later, he sailed for India. When Gandhi arrived home, his brother met him in Bombay. He had some terrible news for Gandhi. Their mother, Putlibai, had died soon after she had heard that her son had passed his exams. Gandhi had loved his mother deeply, and he was filled with terrible sadness at this news. When they arrived in Rajkot, the family home was newly painted to welcome the homecoming barrister. Gandhi was pleased to be home with his family. His life with Kasturbai was difficult at first, but they became closer, and in October 1892 their second son, Manilal, was born. But Gandhi could not find work. He moved to Bombay for 6 months, but still did not get a job. And back in Rajkot, he had an argument with a British official, which made life there very difficult for him. He had been without work for nearly 2 years. So, when a law firm in South Africa invited him to work there for a year, Gandhi felt he had to go.